Okay, here is the turn order for round 11. The Italian 1/10th tries to get sneaky and moves into A13. However, the American 3rd was prepared. They moved the carrier to A14 there and were within range to intercept. The Italian 1/13th attacks France, and that's going to cause quite a bit of stress for the Americans. The battle for Italy continues between the Americans and the Italians. There's quite a big battle for R5. Pay attention to that stack of Japanese armor. That's going to be important later. Another large battle in R11. Down in Australia, the Japanese 62nd has landed to scoop up one of the last remaining territories from England that's worth anything. Japanese fleet consolidates in P2, guarding the 97th, and battle in Russia continues between the Americans and the Japanese. The Americans forgot to move the 17th to help support in that fight. They really could have used it. However, they did move another air command over to Alaska. And lastly, the Americans moved troops into Western Canada to help support on that front. Okay, here are the battle results from round 11. The Italian troops in the Atlantic were automatically sunk by the American Navy. However, the 113th did liberate France for the Germans. The battle for Italy continues, with the American forces reduced to just a couple units there. This battle here in Belarus, that Japanese monostack of armor survived with only 2 losses, destroying about half of the Russian forces there. And the battle in R11 also went the Japanese way, as they managed to hold on to that fight that they should have lost. The Japanese 44th took R13 without a fight. Down in Australia, the 62nd takes that spot without any issue. And the battle in Russia continues, the American 42nd barely holding on. The big news of this turn is that the lack of command ships finally came into play, as both the Americans and Japanese lost builds in America and India respectively. And lastly, on the stress wheel, the Russians have fallen into mass desertion. They lost 1 unit at the end of the turn. The Japanese bought themselves backwards 1 to the first level of stress, and the Americans moved forward 1 to dysfunctional infrastructure. Okay, here are the orders and hotspots from turn 12. There we can see the turn order. Over in Europe, the American troops left Great Britain and moved into A6. The Italian 109th landed in France to reinforce the 113th, while the American 50th and Italian 115th continue to fight over Italy. In Russia is where the majority of the action happens this turn, as this is truly a world war. Every nation still left in the game is involved in combat. The Italians and Germans are fighting the American 69th in Leningrad. A battle for R5 continues, with the Japanese and Italian joining forces to fight the Russian 66th. The Russian 67th had orders to move out of Moscow, however they were pinned by the Japanese 65th. 2 stacks of American forces land in Russia, meeting the Japanese 44th. And R12 continues to be a hot spot as Japanese and Russian forces battle each other there. Down off the coast of Indochina, the American 64th has left J16 and is on the move, looking for some more Japanese territory to attack. And R17 continues to be a hot spot as the Japanese try to evict the last of the American forces there. The Japanese Navy, along with the 97th, moves into P4 and threatens the American homeland and the Canadian western coast. The Americans have moved the 43rd into Western Canada to help defend. All right, here's the board state at the end of round 12. The Italians have kicked the last of the American forces out of Italy and consolidated their troops there. The heroic American 69th has held on to Leningrad. They intentionally did not destroy the German forces. At this point in the game, they are manipulating the stress wheel. I may do a follow-up video about that later. Combined Axis forces have eliminated the last of the Russians from R5. However, the Russian 67th was able to hang on to Moscow. The overwhelming American forces soundly defeated the Japanese in R12. However, the Japanese 85th won the battle for R11 and held that territory. The Japanese have all of their available factories in production save for India. In Russia, they have eliminated the last of the American forces there. The Japanese caused a fair amount of resource loss to the Americans in the port attacks in P4. And over on the stress wheel, the Russians remain in the mass desertion stage. They lost 4 units at the end of this round. And lastly, the Italians cashed in a stack of tokens to buy themselves backwards 1 stress level.